morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's certainly a pleasure to address you and talk to you and welcome you to such a beautiful building. That said, it's a lovely morning, and summer has arrived maybe at last, and it has indeed been a very deep winter for construction. There is some sign, I think, of green shoots, and this year I expect that our outcome will not decline any further than it did in the previous year. And maybe we've turned the corner. Our industry has gone from having an output of about 38 billion euros in 2006 and 2007, right down to about 8 billion last year. And I think there are some signs, that the things are improving. So we look forward to that. But quite apart from that, this morning is all about a new technology. It's about where we're going in the future. And I'm old enough to remember that when I was a young engineer, we did our calculations with a slide rule. And I can see people looking at me and saying, what was that? But since then we've seen the electronic calculator, we've seen the mainframe computer, we've seen personal computers, and technology moves on. And I think we're probably on the threshold of a new technology that will become standard in the industry. And when people look back in a number of years' time, they'll figure how we did things simply with a PC without the kind of technology that BIM provides. So maybe it's time to hear from the experts. This morning we have three speakers, Chris Gilmour, Aidan McCoy and Mark McGill. Now, these are speakers who have first-hand experience of this new technology, coming from different backgrounds. Chris is an architect by profession. The other speakers are engineers. All essential parts of construction. So maybe without any further ado, I'll hand over to you, Chris.
Thanks, Don. Can everybody hear me okay? Can I just take a bit of a rain check? How many other architects are in the room? Oh God, I was hoping for a few more actually. How many engineers? Okay, right. Sadly, when you were talking about slide rules, I was thinking that I'm actually old enough to remember a Graphos pen. Anybody remember a Graphos pen? Where you put drops of ink in and you got it all down here and it was all over the drawing. How times have changed. I'm a director of BAM Construction. We're the UK business within the Royal BAM Group, and our sister company, as you all know, is BAM's Instructors here. I just want to spend probably 20 minutes or so just telling you about what we've been doing for the past 14 months, and indeed just start to talk about a case study showing you how we're using BIM, and then more interesting than me, there's two guys from our supply chain who are working on the particular case study that can tell you a bit more about it, about what they've been doing. Find the right button. I just want to start off with a couple of quotes, and I'll read it and you can read it at the same time. The basic decisions of construction control are often incomplete or unduly rushed because necessary information is not available sufficiently ahead of time. Or is it not complete enough? On many occasions, members of the construction team could, but do not, ease this problem by supplying the data that would facilitate the preparation of fuller and more useful information by others. Building construction is remarkable among industrial activities for the lack of detailed information about how it proceeds. Until more is known, there can be no basis for improvement. I'm sure everybody recognises that. But actually, did you know that it was done in 1965 by a couple of guys called Higgin and Jerson, who, like we've been doing every 10 years, we examine ourselves and try and find a better way of doing things, but actually nothing happens. The second one is the construction industry's business models are fundamentally broken. Everyone is looking for how quickly they can break the bargain on a project. We must change our business drivers and business processes. That was said by a guy called Paul Morrell, who some of you may know, who's the Chief Construction Advisor to our government, and he said that in 2011. And we're a remarkable industry when you think about it. We're the only industry that actually starts constructing and manufacturing something before we finish designing it. And more often than not, certainly on some of our projects, and I'm sure you recognise as well, we're still designing the bloody building when we finished it and handed it over. So it's no wonder that we make mistakes. Our business is about $1 billion, going down, probably a bit less this year, I guess. And we do projects all over the UK. The interesting thing that makes us a little different is we have our own designers. Once upon a time we had 200 designers ourselves. We're now down to about 100. That's architects, structure, MEP, interiors. They're all using Revit. We've been using Revit architecture for about 10 years now, and we migrated to MEP about 2 years ago. So we're pretty well experienced in the use of 3D technology, and that's given us a bit of a boost in terms of trying to understand what BIM's about. At the moment, just to give you a picture of where we are as a business, we have 7 regions. The country's split up into 7 regions, Scotland down to the southwest. Every region is using BIM in some way, shape or form. Some are leading, some are evangelists and doing a lot, others are just waking up and following. So we're at different places around the country. But we've set some targets, and the targets we've set last year is that at least one project should be fully in BIM. This year, 30% of all of the projects that we're doing have to be in BIM, and then we move on to 2013, 60% and so on. Pictures on the right are just some examples of the sort of things that we do. I'm sure most of you recognise the style. The one at the bottom right is quite interesting. That's a construction model in Revit of a technology classroom in a school. We build a lot of schools. And we use the technology to explain the design of the school and the classroom to the teachers. So when we're engaging with the head teacher, we'll produce these sort of models and then talk to them about how the classroom is laid out. The technology allows us to zoom around, but actually it's not just Hollywood BIM, as we call it. That's a real construction model if we wanted to strip away all of the rendering. Why are we doing all of this? It's a simple business case, really. If you read a lot, and I'm sure of you have, about what's happening in the States, there's some pretty good research that says on every project in the States, every week there is a clash of something. And that clash costs the contractor probably $2,500. So when you multiply it up by the number of projects that you do and the number of weeks in a year, it comes to 8 million for us. That's a pretty big number. Now you can discount that by whatever figure you like, discount it by 90%. It's still a big number. We're being pushed by government. Government are saying to us that 18 months ago, within 5 years, every project has to be in BIM. So if you want to work in the public sector in the UK, you have to be in BIM. There is no alternative. That's a pretty big driver for us. We're also saying that contractors need to be the integrators, and I'll come on to that a bit more in a minute. It needs strong client leadership. And as I said right at the beginning, this industry needs something to change it. We are a very wasteful industry. We all know that, we all recognise it. But this industry has not changed in the last 100 years. We do things more efficiently and technology helps us a little bit. But in terms of the processes and the collaboration, the way we put things together, we haven't changed. This is the opportunity to change the industry. And I think for those that are doing it and for those that want to get into BIM, there's probably a 2 or 3 year window to gain some competitive advantage. After that, our view is everybody will be doing it and it will just be business as usual. How did we do it? About 18 months ago, I remember going to a conference when people stood up and started talking about BIM. And I came back and talked to the rest of the board about what we should be doing. We talked about it. We decided we needed to do it. That was a simple decision. The second decision was how. Traditionally, what we do with something new is it's about evolution. We develop a plan, we identify a team, we trial it on a project to see if it works, then we have a little workshop and we all sit around and talk and review things and have little boards to write things up on and see what was good and what was not so good, and then we modify the plan, and probably after 2 years we think, yeah, that's a good idea, we'll do that. But it's taken us a long time to do that, and we couldn't wait. We did not want to pilot it. We didn't want evolution, which was quite unusual for us. So we just said, fuck it, let's just get on and do it, because in the end, we have to make the decision to do it. So 12 months ago, we said we needed to get on and do it. We established a BIM steering group, which I chair, so all of our regions were represented on that group, with some representatives from Autodesk to help us. We've run through some training programs. We're committed to invest. We're probably going to spend about £2.5 million over the next 3 years on software, consultancy and training. And we're just getting on with it. And we're learning every day that goes by. What have we been doing? We talk about a manufacturing model, and even when we get an architect's model, a structural engineer's model, an MEP engineer's model, and try and put them together, and we use Navisworks as the integrator, that's still only the design model. And we don't build the design model, we build what we call a manufacturing model. So the essence for us is to get our supply chain, who are going to build, to create their particular subcontract package. Steel you'll hear about, precast you'll hear about, in 3D, and we take out the design model and put back the manufacturing model, because that's actually what we're going to build. We're resolving clashes in the model. We're using 4D a lot in terms of logistics and modelling. We're timelining projects and showing clients exactly where we program to be on week 25, and we look out the site window and say, yes, we're on program, or hopefully we might be a bit ahead, and hopefully never we're behind, but we are sometimes. But it gives us an actual, a visual image of where we're supposed to be. Health and safety is a big issue for the industry, and we use the model to do a lot of health and safety planning in terms of risk assessments and so on. Because actually, a project manager on his site team can actually look at the model, walk around the model, see what they're doing, look at the risks, rather than looking at 2D drawings, which is the traditional way of doing it. We're starting to get into 5D, which is quantity takeoff. We're not that far advanced, nobody is really. Lots of quantity surveyors are looking at it, as well as us. But what we are doing on a couple of projects is using it for asset management. So when we're building a model, particularly in Revit, and those of you who know Revit know that it has data attached to it as well. So for an air handling unit or a desk or a door, it's not just a picture of that, it's the data behind it, which talks about where the manufacturer is, what its maintenance regime is, and so on. So we've just finished quite a large research facility where we've given the whole model to the client, and he's using that for his asset management. Our experiences so far, most projects aren't coordinated when we get them at tender, even in 3D. We might get 3 different models, and you probably wouldn't be amazed that they're not coordinated. It's better if the contractor takes charge of the building the model. I mentioned that contractors need to be the integrators. We firmly believe that. We think that whilst architects are responsible for an element of design coordination, when it comes down to the finer detail, the contractor has to take charge. There's all sorts of debates about intellectual property, and the lawyers are having a field day, but we're just getting on with it. Recognition that it's a design and a manufacturing model. Those 2 pictures up there are of a small leisure centre we're doing in Scotland. The top is the design model, and the bottom is the manufacturing model. So that's the manufacturers. It's not Fisher's, but it's another subcontractors. That's their manufacturing model. So that's the bit we're interested in. We're not really interested in the design model, because we don't build that. And then we're getting some quick wins and reduced risk in coordination. And there's more. There's a lot of rhetoric talked by some. I was talking to my colleagues yesterday. Because we're Dutch, we're quite conservative actually. We don't tend to shout about ourselves too much. We prefer to do something, and then when somebody asks us how do you do that, we can show them. But there's a lot of talk about BIM and what people are doing. Just ask them the question and ask them to show you what they're doing and turn the pages. We find, sorry to say this, but subcontractors are more enthusiastic than designers. In the UK, we did a straw poll of all of the consultants that we're working with, and we found only 20% of them, this is about 6 months ago, so hopefully things have moved on, are working in some way of 3D. So I expect that to change pretty quickly. So, case study. It's okay talking, what are we actually doing? This is Leeds Arena, which the other guys will talk to you about as well. It's a 12,000 seat arena in Leeds, does pop concerts, you can see. We won it on a two-stage design and build contract. We bid against a number of others. It's about 60 million. We won it in April 2010 as the first stage, and we were awarded the contract a year later. We spent a year with our own designers developing the design to probably E, bit of F, doing all of the coordination, making sure that it all fitted, got the right packages in place, got the right program and so on. So a year after we won it, you would expect we had a building that was ready to go. We've started it, we complete in next year. The architects are Populous, who we appointed to do the detailed design, and the engineer for both structure, MEP, fire, acoustics, you name it, are Arabs, who are doing a fantastic job. It's unique geometry, lots of steel and precast interfaces. It's a tight site and program. It's right in the middle of Leeds, difficult to get to. Lots of integration of specialist supply chain, lots of working at height, so lots of health and safety issues for us, and tight financial constraints. Contractors in the room will know what I mean by that. We won this at a pretty tight margin, where there is no room for errors. So we don't want any more problems on site, which is going to cost us money and coming out of our pocket. That's, sorry, it didn't come out very well. That's a picture of the steel frame, I'm sure. Might be a better one later on. So, having won the project, having spent a year developing the design, just about to start on site, it was fortuitous, I guess. It was the same time that as a business we pressed the button and said, okay, we're going to roll BIM out. So this was probably the first project that we got stuck into. We trained some staff, some design management staff on the project. The guy who runs it, the design manager, was trained on Navisworks. Took him not long. He is not a graduate from Cambridge in IT. He's an ex-bricklayer. He came up through the trades, became a site manager, and then moved into design management. So he's not a techie person, but he manages all of this. We built the Navisworks model from the differing consultants' designs. We collaborated with the designers, Fishers, Krier, Lakesmere doing the admin facade, and Rotary doing the M&E. And we run our meetings by WebEx, so people don't travel. Fishers and Krier are in Northern Ireland, the job's in Leeds, our architects in London, Arabs are in Sheffield. Nobody travels to the site. Site team are on site. It's all done on screen and from people's offices. The benefits to us, well, greater understanding of the building. In the first week of putting this model together, we found 62 clashes. Having spent a year developing the design with our designers, 62 in the first 4 weeks, which we reckon came out about £100,000 of money that we would have had to spend. At the moment, there's a figure there of 350,000 where we are now. It's a bit more than that, actually, but we don't like to talk about it because the client thinks that that's money that he can have back, so we keep it fairly quiet. So I'm trusting you all to keep it quiet. But that's just money that we would have had to have paid out of our own pocket. So in simple terms, the clash detection has helped us enormously. You can see on the bottom left-hand corner and the one above it, just a simplistic, that's our model. Where things clash, it highlights them in orange. We don't have to go searching for them. So it's pretty simple technology. We have a mantra, and we talk about building it twice. So every building that we do, our vision is we build it once in a computer, sort out the problems, because there are always, and then build it on site when we're happy to do it. In this particular project, they've been very good at collecting data, because people say, that's great, that's lots of talk, but actually, can you tell us how it's benefited you? Yeah, sure. The design process, they've worked out that they've saved 15,000 hours. This is with the designers, which equals 8 years of an architect's life, just by using BIM and working in 3D and using WebEx to communicate. We've reduced our carbon, which is great for our sustainability targets. Instead of travelling 60,000 miles, we've done it all on screen, and 9,000 copies of drawings that we would have printed in the traditional way, we've saved. No clashes. As of last week, 20,000 building elements have been installed in that project to date. The roof's on, the frame's up, the precast is nearly finished, and yeah, of course there's been the odd little thing, but 20,000 building elements have been installed in that project without a clash. Project's on time. We manage the logistics of the project using 4D, so crane usage, material deliveries is all done through the model. And we manage design development. When we put back Fisher's manufacturing model and we looked at the steel, we actually found that there were areas of steel that we didn't need. So we saved 8% on the structure just by doing that. And we made it a safer place to work as well. So our target of zero harm at the moment is on track. So what's the upsides for BIM? The business case, there's a lot of money to be saved. We chuck away huge amounts of money in our industry by just by rework, knocking things down, doing them again, diamond drilling holes where we needed them and we didn't know about it. There's a lot of money to be saved. You have to have faith. You need to drive it all the time. Otherwise, you'll talk yourself out of it. So we have strong leadership from the top, and we just keep pushing all the time. It is about strong leadership, but actually, when you get over the hurdle of a project team and their reservations about using it, once they start to use it in a very short space of time, no matter than a couple of months, they start to see the benefits, and then it flies. It is a change of culture. You do need to share stuff. I was at a conference about 6 months ago when we had all the architects and engineers put their hands up. Who's using 3D? A lot of people put their hands down. Then we asked who would be prepared to share their model. Hardly anybody, because people want to keep it like this, worried about intellectual property, design response, all of those sorts of legal implications. It's a change of culture. You need to share things. Build on the success of the early adopters and actually celebrate it and publish it and tell people about it, which is why we love doing these sorts of things. But fundamentally, it's about collaboration. And whilst we talk about collaboration, our industry sometimes is not great. We don't trust each other. This is not about sharing commercial confidentiality, it's about sharing information. So the opportunities for clients, most of our clients say, yeah, that's great for you guys. What's in it for us? Quite a lot, actually. Better understanding of the building. We think over time, prices will come down. We've been driven hard by government to reduce our prices on contracts even more than we are now. It's about value for money, the reduced risk to them and ourselves, and the ongoing maintenance if they're the building owner. There are huge opportunities. For consultants, I think if you do it now, if you're not, then you're going to gain some competitive advantage, because we will not work with consultants who are not using 3D if we have the choice. And we're starting to say that to our supply chain and our subcontractors as well. It's a differentiation to contractors for consultants. Contractors employ, as you well know, consultants nowadays. Certainly in the UK we do. So it's a differentiator for you, to us. And there's still time to get on the front foot. We've only been going for about 14 months now. And actually the pace of change is phenomenal. And for contractors, it's build it virtually first. Build it in a computer, make sure it works. Reduce the risks, provide more added value. And once you've got the model, you can use it for all sorts of things. And every day, people are finding new ways of doing things. For the specialists, I think, again, it's about differentiation. It's about providing what we want, which is the manufacturing model, and it's reducing risk for their own element as well. For those manufacturers, a number of them have woken up and are doing some really good stuff. So in the old days when you had a catalogue and you went down and looked at, you know, a toilet system from Ideal Standard or whatever, a lot of those building elements now, door sets, ironmongery and things, you can get in 3D. So manufacturers are waking up. And then the industry. I think for us, there's a fantastic opportunity to demonstrate that this is not just a fantastic industry, but it delivers great value for money. And we think that there's an opportunity to make a huge step change in the industry by the use of this, which, as I said right at the beginning, is probably the first time in 100 years that we've had the opportunity to do something. There are challenges, protocols, how you work, how you get information, what you expect from people have to be sorted out, and the responsibilities as well. Stay away from lawyers if you can, because they'll fleece. Sorry, no, are there any lawyers in the room? Right, okay. Because they're trying to rewrite contracts and all sorts of things, and it's pretty straightforward stuff actually. So I wouldn't worry too much. It's a difficult time to invest in this market, particularly if you're a small practice. You know, you've got to spend some money investing in the technology and the software. Understand that. There is an element of denial by some people that it's not my problem, it's somebody else's problem, and the industry will do that. I'm just whatever. And evidence. We need evidence to demonstrate that this is a much better way of doing things. And just by going through the Leeds Arena case study, which we're collecting data of, is really useful stuff. We're writing case studies up and giving them to various organisations to just make people aware of what's happening. The downside? No idea. We haven't found one. Yep. I'm sure I'll fill that slide up in a year's time with the downside, but at the moment, as we speak, we can't see any downside whatsoever. So, to summarise, there's major cost and time savings to be made by the use of full BIM and more to follow. Contractors have got to take charge. Sorry, consultants, but it won't happen if you do it. You're not going to be building the model, you're not going to be taking out design models and inserting back manufacturing models. The contractor has to take charge, and then the contractor can use it for all sorts of other things, whether it's 4D, 5D or 6D. And the supply chain needs to get on board as well. That's the message to you guys today is, this is 6 months ago, 20% of our consultants I mentioned before are only working in 3D. So consultants need to wake up, difficult to invest, as I said. And finally, just jump in, the water's lovely, you know, it's not cold. It's nice and warm, and as soon as you're in, you'll get some real benefit. Thanks very much.